Imagine day 5 of a catastrophic blackout. Your diesel generator just burned its final drop of gas, and the digital thermometer inside your freezer is rapidly climbing past 40 degrees. Your expensive stockpile of raw meat and critical medical insulin is actively transforming into a lethal biological hazard. But you do not have to starve. Every expensive survival manual demands you hoard calories, but ignores how to prevent them from rotting when the grid flatlines. Here is an ultimate mechanical paradox that breaks every rule of modern thermodynamics. There is a specific refrigeration unit requiring zero electrical current, zero moving compressor parts, and zero lithium batteries. It maintains a freezing 30-degree temperature inside the food box using nothing except the intense heat of a single continuous flame. You might be thinking this is just a standard camper fridge. You are absolutely right. But what the recreational vehicle industry refuses to market is that this exact enclosed chemical loop was perfected a century ago by the Amish community to survive completely off the grid. They utilize basic physics to force a mixture of ammonia and hydrogen to react under extreme thermal pressure. The fundamental law of this ancient technology completely shatters your modern understanding of temperature control. Because when you manipulate this specific enclosed gas cycle, you can physically freeze an object by aggressively setting it on fire. Let me show you the exact internal chemistry behind this hidden survival tool, and how to safely salvage one right now today. Let us start with the history, because what you are about to learn is not some unproven internet scam. It is century-old, bulletproof thermodynamics. If you walk onto an old-order Amish off-grid dairy farm in the dead of July, with the outside temperature pushing 100 degrees, their raw milk is sitting safely at a freezing 38 degrees. They have been doing this continuously since the 1800s without ever plugging into the power grid. You might think this is just primitive farm tech, but in 1930, Albert Einstein himself, alongside his former student Leo Szilard, patented a version of this exact zero moving parts cycle. Yes, the smartest physicist in human history dedicated his time to engineering a hermetically sealed refrigeration loop that requires absolutely no electricity. The modern appliance industry quietly buried this technology because they cannot charge you a monthly electric bill for a fire. But the Amish never let it go. So how exactly do the smartest scientists in history and grid-isolated farmers use a burning flame to freeze food? Now we dive into the science. I need you to understand this because knowing how it works is the only thing separating a prepared survivor from a helpless victim. To grasp this mechanical paradox, you only need to understand one fundamental law of physics. Rapid evaporation steals heat. Think about rubbing alcohol. When you wipe it on the back of your warm hand, it instantly feels freezing cold as it vanishes into vapor. That is evaporative cooling in action. A modern electric fridge uses a motorized compressor to violently force refrigerant gas to evaporate and extract heat. But when the grid fails, that electric muscle dies. The Amish absorption refrigerator completely replaces that fragile electric motor with the raw thermal energy of a flame. Inside the back of this fridge is a closed-loop system of continuous steel piping containing 3 specific elements: the carrier, the thief, and the ghost. The carrier is water, the thief is liquid ammonia, and the ghost is hydrogen gas. Here is the brilliant chemical sequence. A tiny continuous flame sits at the absolute bottom of the sealed pipe system. The fire does not cool the air inside the box. The fire brutally boils the ammonia and water mixture, forcing the chemicals into a panicked state of rapid expansion. The ammonia vaporizes and aggressively rises to the top of the fridge, leaving the water behind. Once that pure ammonia vapor cools and condenses back into a liquid, it enters the evaporator coils located directly inside your food box. This is exactly where it meets the ghost, the hydrogen gas. The hydrogen physically drops the internal closed-loop pressure so severely that the liquid ammonia instantly flashes back into a vapor. It violently evaporates. And remember our primary rule? Evaporation steals heat. It ruthlessly extracts the thermal energy straight out of the metal coils, out of the surrounding air, and out of your life-saving medicine. The ammonia then casually drifts back down, recombines with the water carrier, and flows directly back to the flame to repeat the continuous thermal cycle. Gravity and heat do all the heavy lifting. But before you rush out to blindly construct this chemical loop in your garage, you need to know why DIYing this system can create a lethal, toxic pipe bomb. Instead, I am going to show you a completely legal $0 scavenging loophole. Do not try to build this chemical loop yourself. You will essentially build a toxic pipe bomb. Instead, steal it legally from the forgotten graveyards of the RV industry. The internet is full of amateur DIY plans, but welding a pressurized ammonia and hydrogen circuit in your backyard is a suicidal gamble. Your simplest $0 path is off-grid salvage. Look at the thousands of dead, rotting campers sitting in local scrapyards or listed for free on Facebook Marketplace. People will practically pay you to haul away a $500 broken camper, having absolutely no idea that bolted inside the kitchen is a $1,500 pristine three-way absorption fridge. These units were engineered specifically to ignore the electrical grid. You simply bypass the fragile 12-volt wiring and manually set the dial to LP gas mode. Connected to a standard 20-pound propane cylinder, this gravity-dependent circuit will quietly freeze your food for an entire month on a single tank. It is the ultimate survival cheat code. But even a perfectly salvaged off-grid fridge has hidden vulnerabilities. If you make these amateur mistakes, this miracle machine will suddenly stop working. Or worse, quietly kill you in your sleep. Here are the 3 silent killers that will bite you if you get lazy. First, you must respect the physics of a gravity-dependent circuit. If you blindly mount this fridge on an uneven floor, the liquid ammonia will suffer from off-level pooling. The chemicals will physically trap themselves in the wrong section of the steel pipes, halting the entire thermal cycle and permanently crystallizing the solution. You must use a bubble-level tool to ensure the unit sits absolutely flat. Second is the deadly ammonia leak. This closed-loop system is incredibly durable, but if it ever ruptures, you need to recognize the invisible threat. If you ever walk into your shed and smell a filthy, abandoned cat litter box, hold your breath and run. Your survival fridge is actively leaking lethal ammonia. If you inspect the back coils and discover a crusty yellow-green crystallization, the system has suffered a catastrophic breach. It is toxic, highly corrosive, and completely unrepairable. Turn off the flame immediately and abandon the unit. Third is the silent threat of unvented combustion. This fridge runs on a real oxygen-consuming fire. If you run it inside a sealed, unventilated room where you sleep, you are begging for a lethal carbon monoxide backdraft. Furthermore, you must aggressively inspect the external burner tube. A single mud dauber wasp nest or a tiny spider web woven inside that small gap is the #1 reason these units catch fire or suddenly quit cooling. Keep the burner clean, keep the unit perfectly level, and ensure aggressive ventilation. Master these ruthless rules and you secure an indestructible food supply. But what does a prepared survivor actually achieve by conquering this century-old thermal puzzle? Step back and look at your house on day 5 of that catastrophic blackout. The neighborhood outside is terrifyingly silent. Your neighbor's expensive diesel generator died yesterday, and their food is actively rotting. But inside your kitchen, there is zero panic. Your raw meat is frozen solid, and your life-saving insulin is resting safely at a perfect 38 degrees, guarded by a silent, motionless flame. We have been sold a highly dangerous illusion. Modern society taught us that keeping our families alive requires spinning electric motors and a fragile power grid. We completely confused convenience with true resilience. But the Amish never forgot the reality of physics. They did not reject modern appliances because they hate progress. They rejected them because they absolutely refuse to be chained to a system they cannot control. On the terrifying night the grid finally collapses, the Amish are not the ones who are backward. They will be the only people on Earth whose world continues to function flawlessly. Dependence on the grid is a choice disguised as a necessity. Every single time you replace a fragile electrical wire with an unbreakable law of physics, you sever the leash between your family and a dying system. You do not need $1 million bunker to survive the worst. You just need to remember the science that modern society forced you to forget.